Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining me in my shop. It's November 14th today, and what I'm going to be doing with this radio is trying to fashion a antenna identical to the antenna that came with this radio, photographs of which I have. Now I have two photographs from two different radios showing the antenna. Very simple open loop, I guess, open loop antenna. But first, you probably know that we have a couple new kittens in our house. They're running around behind me right now. And of course, along with kittens comes a certain amount of degradation that's going to occur in our house. And part of that degradation I have to deal with today is my wife's power supply cord for her laptop. Well, one piece of wire's missing there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they chewed the heck out of this. So I have to remake this. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to attend to the antenna, or try anyway. Here we are, a nice new chew toy for the cats, no doubt. Whoever did it will be after this again. Yeah, there's a price to pay when you have cats. But I bet you it's a much smaller price than when you have dogs. I would think dogs would be very expensive. Okay, so what about the antenna? Well, we're going to start by looking at a couple photographs very carefully. And I've already done some analysis on the photographs. I know the dimensions, length of the wire and things like that. And we'll just take a look and consider how I might go about doing this. Let's have a look. Okay, here's a very nice photograph taken of this radio. There's a few things we can take note of in this photograph. Something first I'd forgotten about. Okay, we'll zoom in. This connection to the chassis. In my radio, it's hanging open. It's going nowhere. This is a mistake. So this needs to be connected to the chassis. So the whole time I've been operating that radio, this has not been correct. Number two, about this antenna. It's pretty heavy. It looks like copper. About the thickness of a coat hanger wire. That's pretty heavy stuff. Is it heavy because they wanted it to be stiff, or is it heavy because they wanted it to be very low resistance? Well, anyway, it is what it is. We can see how they've held it here using non-conductive straps to support these wires. Otherwise this would collapse. I'm sure it would just boing, and be gone. I see this is not screwed in here. You can see a screw coming out here, and you can see two screws, well, one anyway, one screw here. This one may be missing. So it's supported top and bottom, but not the sides. You can see two wires connecting to the end here, the ends rather. This wire, I know from looking at my radio, goes back to a grounding lug just behind this adjustment. And by the way, when I did the alignment on the radio, I forgot about this adjustment too, which is another reason why I need to do more work on this radio. This part coming down here, which is soldered to the wire, is also soldered to this terminal on the terminal strip here, giving the antenna some rigidity at this point also. Wow, it just looks like overkill, but I guess they must have made this antenna outside of the radio and then brought it and installed it into the radio, and maybe in a factory setting that made a lot of sense, because you could attach this in a couple different ways. It'd be a little simpler, I would think, than what they've got here. This is the wire I've been connecting all my antennas to. In my radio, it's fed underneath here. Like it sneaks out underneath this terminal strip, and I guess it would be long enough to reach down there. Barely. May not even be long enough to reach there. This looks longer. So we don't know what happened to the first antenna. Obviously it's been removed. It just cut these wires, making them a little bit shorter. This lug is missing. Why would the lug be missing? Somebody had to take some effort to pull the lug off the end of this wire. Screw is missing in the screw hole. Why would that be? That's a weird thing. That's a weird thing. Okay. Let's look at the next picture. This is a same model, different radio. That's a lot better. So we make the same observations. Wire under the screw, ground wire attached to the lug here, and the antenna. The antenna's screwed in at the bottom here using a different kind of screw, by the way. Looks like it's screwed in on all sides. Maybe not here. Maybe not. Not on the sides again. Why bother? Everything looks the same inside here. So this tube is different from all the rest. These are all loctals, and in my radio this tube socket is just a regular octal socket, and so is the tube. And same thing in these radios too. I think the other one's the same, isn't it? I think you can see it's the same thing going on here. Actually, this one looks a little different too, but this is a loctal tube, but not this one. Funny they didn't make the whole radio all with loctals and figure out which loctal tube to put here. I'm sure there's something similar. And was it this radio where it had a 35? Is it this one? It had a 35 Z5 and I've stuck a 50 in. And we can't see what's in here, but it should be a 50. Okay, I don't think I can get any more out of looking at this picture. How many turns are there? Starting here, we go around once, twice, 3 times, 4 times around, basically. Four loops, roughly a centimeter spaced, heavy wire. What I've got is some house wiring here, but I don't know. How am I going to keep this? Actually, I have an idea. But my first idea is go drink some coffee now. Apparently one wire's not enough. She's looking for more to chew here. All day long, of course. That's one of 2. The other one's somewhere else causing trouble. So I'm thinking I've got to do the same thing as these antennas. Get it back, get a stiff material of some sort, and build the antenna onto it. If I try to do the airborne thing with straps, that's not going to happen. I'm sure that won't work out. This is close in itself. Look at that. So I need, and you know, if I could just use a piece of cardboard, but it would look pretty ugly, wouldn't it? It would look like I used a piece of cardboard. So I got to find something. Okay, off to find a board. Hey, what are you doing down there? No answer. Okay, my search for backing material, something like this, has failed. Couldn't find any, but while doing that, I was thinking about alternatives, and one would be, why not just use a stick, a paint stick in this case, and build it on the stick, and then maybe, you know, mount the stick, or even like this. Oh, it's the right size. So what's going through my mind is, if I were to use a stick, do I need 2 sticks? 2 sticks? 1 stick like that? 1 stick like that? 1 like that? I have to think about it. Which would be the floppiest way? One stick. I like 1 because it's less than 2. Okay, I'm gonna think about this a little bit, but I think maybe the stick is the easy way to go, and it's a little less committal too. If I get the, you know, get a loop built and kind of, how would I even tack it on here? Well, how would I tack it on here? I could glue it on here. Could glue it on here. Could. Okay, gotta think more about it. Okay, here's my plan. So I'm going to draw on here the shape of the antenna onto this piece of paper, and I'm then going to bend this wire I have. I have some really quite ideal wire for this. It's fairly heavy and stiff wire, and pretty good diameter on it. Not quite coat hanger diameter, but and that'll give me the shape of the antenna. I will go do that. Okay, at the risk of generating laughter, I'm going to show you my first attempt here. Here it is. Yeah, I generated laughter in me. There it is. It's wonderful. Now, this is kind of a temporary thing, but you know, temporary things become permanent. It's going to fit somehow, maybe, or I'll do a different kind of support. This is just for experimenting with the radio. Okay, that's what's next. The next thing will be hook that antenna up to the radio the way it's intended to be connected, and give it a go. I got to figure out how to support this thing in the air here, and if I remember right, this lower piece. No, I don't. I'm not remembering right. It's this piece. Isn't it soldered right to here? That doesn't make sense. I'll have to look at the picture again. But anyway, well, I'll get it set up and we will experiment. So I'm at the point now where, still on a temporary basis, I'm looking for some way to support this. You know, it could be as easy as this. It could be as easy as that. And then wire it up according to the wires shown in the photograph. But this is where things have become complicated again, because I look more closely at my radio. I've got this wire, which is going to the chassis. I have a lug back here. This wire, which is supposed to be lugged down to the chassis but isn't. This wire I've been using as the antenna lead for the radio. That's 3 wires. But there's a 4th wire. There's a wire coming around to this terminal. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 wires. 2 leads on the antenna and 4 wires. So we know this one goes to the chassis. What's going on here? What is going on here? So let's look at those photographs again and see if we can figure it out. Okay, so in this photograph, we see this one going down, okay, fine, and this is one coming from a lug just out of view here, and we can see it coming over. Now, what is it doing here? It's clearly connecting to this end of the antenna, but what's going on at this lug? Is it soldered back to the lug? Looking at the distance the antenna is out front here, it's pretty close to the front edge, and there's quite a gap in here. So we can assume this piece has also got a gap, although this looks bent back a little bit. Do you think they bent this back so it could be soldered to this terminal? I thought so initially, because I thought all this was just a terminal to nowhere, and so bring this wire out and fasten this all to the terminal and make the whole thing rigid. But now you can't see it in this view, but there's another wire coming up to this terminal here, and this looks like it's probably an inch or 2 out front. What's this terminal for, and what's the wire coming to it for? Let's look at the other photo here. Oops. So this one, okay, same sort of thing, down to the chassis, coming out from a chassis lug back here. So you can see this is not bent back, and it's quite a distance from the chassis. I'm looking at the shadowing of the shadowing on the chassis. So this looks like it's bent inward, like this inner turn is closer to the chassis than out here by quite a bit, is what it looks like. It looks like this is held out by the screws here. The rest of the antenna is in, much deeper. This looks straight down. None of this is making much sense. This looks straight out from here. What I'm trying to do is determine the clearance situation here. Is this soldered back to that terminal or is it not? I think it's not. Then what's the purpose of that terminal? So this wire I have, and it goes to this end of the antenna. And then this wire, I assume is the same wire I have that's just cut right now. But there's another one going to a terminal here. Well, would that be the terminal for hooking up an outdoor antenna? Because where else would you hook up an outdoor antenna here? That's probably what it is. This is probably not soldered to the terminal. You know, this terminal's right onto the chassis. This one's been cut off. Or it's bent forward actually, and there's nothing on it. There's nothing on it in my radio either. Why did they bother with it? And then over here, we have this wire. This wire, I'll bet you this is the wire that goes back into the radio and then has the little wrap around it, the other wire wrapped around it. Let's look at the schematic here. Oh, do I have it? Okay, so they show one end as being grounded, and that would be to the chassis, and we saw that. And it's the inside, it's even the inside. And it is the inside that's tied back to the chassis. Now the outside, sure enough, oh, it's tied to two wires. One goes back in the radio to do this thing. And then this wire must come out and reach that terminal, which I thought the antenna was soldered to, but it's probably not. It's just sitting there. So this is basically doing nothing unless you hook up another antenna. So okay, so I can identify this wire for sure. I've got the radio in the cabinet. I think it just amounts to the two wires sticking out, the chassis wire going here and the other wire sticking out going here. And I don't think I should think about it too much more. And away we go. Okay, I think I'm ready for an experimental try here. Just see if I can just even out these loops a little bit. That's about all I can do. Electrically, it might be very similar to the original antenna, even though it's kind of ugly looking. It's a very ugly looking thing. But let's give it a try. I put this back in the cabinet because I thought it would be easy to support the antenna, and also give me a chance to see, you know, how this is really going to work in reality. So we don't want to hook up a. We're gonna try the radio just as it is, no boosting antenna here. So it's just going to pick up whatever it can in my shop. Really? Is that really what you want to do? Yeah. Okay. Don't push too hard. Okay. So. Oh, I think I just knocked the antenna. Make sure it's still connected. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is tipping in a way that's going to. Oh. Hopefully this coil here doesn't do anything. I don't think it will. Will you pick up anything at all? Okay, switch is on. Okay, here we go with the power. Power on. Big flash in the light. Where are you going, radio? So both, I think I broke two pairs of these now. Yeah, spring is broken in them. Okay, so again, we're down in my shop here, so we're down here. We're close to where stations are. definitely directive. Let me just make sure. I'm just going to turn off the boosting antenna here. There's no possibility of boosting. It's just coming from the ether. So this is 590, a fairly strong station. Go down and see if we can get Buffalo. Can you hear it? There's no howling.
There you go. And that is Mohammed, a supreme, genuine Swiftie. And again, not the kind of person you think. Shoppers Drug Mart, the PC Optima point.
Don't know what that is. It's really working really well. This is really working well. Most radios don't work this well in my shop. Maybe that says more about me than than the radios. So there's the French station. It's fantastic.
À peu près rien pour s'assurer que les produits qui se retrouvent sur les tablettes ne contiennent pas de produits chimiques et de matériaux toxiques. C'est ce qu'on révèle dans cette enquête-là qui a porté sur des géants comme...
Well, let's take a shot at shortwave. Now, is it possible this thing's going to pick stuff up? I wouldn't bet on it. I got the volume up very high. So we're up around 12 megahertz now. $13. So each of those things you hear me going through the flutters, the sound, that's some kind of repeated interference, I'm pretty sure. Something in my house, or pretty quiet now. Pretty quiet. We're up around very high. We're probably 16 megahertz, way up high there. Okay, we'll go down to 9. Look for the strong guy. Let's see, it's very sensitive in here. Not so good down here. So, I mean, you really can't expect a shortwave radio to work well with just a contained antenna like that. And am I wrong? The antenna is essentially disconnected during shortwave. I'm probably wrong about that. Not a single thing. So usually there's Radio Marti in the 11 megahertz band. Is that 25 meter band? Nope. Ah. Very hard to tune. You have to kind of caress the tuning knob. Well, it's picking something up. What? Any directionality? I wouldn't think so. Yeah, it seems to be. Or is it just the speaker that's directional and it's just our hearing? Now you're hearing it through a microphone up above, so it does seem to be directional. Like, I don't hear anything there. That's impressive. I mean, it's weak, but it's impressive it does anything. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So what I need to do now is I need to, since this worked, I need to make this a little neater. I'm not sure you want to, try to sell a radio like this. This is heading for a store in Toronto, and it'll be sold off, as I said before, for probably $75. Maybe I'll convince them to try and get $100 for it. Yeah, so I just got to make this a little more permanent, and then we're looking at alignment again. Some of the alignment can be done with the chassis in place. Could I do all of it? It's possible I can do all of it with the chassis in there. Little tiny tools. We'll see. Okay, that's good. I feel like, well, thank you very much for the two of you who sent me photographs of radios with the antenna on the back. They would never have ever guessed this was the thing, and it does seem to have, seems to hold up, seems to work. Great. Okay, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.